Living from our heart, living from our core, living from our power, we all get more. We are powerful women.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Heart Whisper Summit. I'm Sue Erda. I'm your host for this event, and I'm the publisher at Powerful You Publishing. And I'm so excited to bring you these 20 authors of ours who have written this book, Heart Whispers. They each share one chapter in the book, which is their personal transformational journey of learning to listen more fully to their heart and step into that and follow that and trust it and start living a life and designing more of a life that they absolutely love to live. I know that's part of the reason why you're here. You want to be able to listen to your own heart whispers, and these authors are sharing their journey with that, as well as other things that they know. They're very accomplished women. They're passionate healers, trainers, coaches, and they're here for you. So I get to introduce them to you today. And today, actually, Melissa Griffiths is our author that we'll be speaking with. I'm going to read a brief introduction, and then we'll start talking with her. Melissa Griffiths is a certified HeartMath mentor, emotional resolution practitioner, body talk practitioner, level 2 quantum healing hypnosis therapy practitioner, and a certified clinical anxiety treatment professional. For over 25 years, Melissa lived on the hormones of stress as a business development executive, running national sales teams, working with Fortune 50 companies, and closing multi-million-dollar deals. In 2016, a freak accident left her with a severe concussion, adrenal fatigue, migraines, and depression. During her 2-year healing process, she realized that her true value was teaching others how their thoughts, feelings, and emotions affect their physical body and overall health. Melissa founded Ascension Inc. to share the tools and techniques that worked for her. And Melissa, I'm happy to welcome you today. How are you?
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Wonderful. Me too. And so I like your topic that you have today, and I know you'll be talking more about this, Beyond the Summit, navigating a second career pivot. A lot of people think I've had one maybe, but a second career pivot, what does that mean?
It is this pivot, really, which is when you find yourself in a place, you've maybe been there for 20, 30 years, doing something that just kind of ticks over, and you realize that it's not actually what your heart wisdom wants you to do. And that ultimately is what I meant by a career pivot. How do you move into a place where you're fulfilling yourself and you're still making money? Because at the end of the day, career, we want to be making money as well, but we also want to do something that is really true to ourselves. Yeah,
absolutely. So I like the name of your company too, Ascension Inc. You're referring to this when you refer to founding, start the question over. So I love the name of your company, Ascension Inc. So you're referring to this, founding Ascension Inc. as climbing your second mountain. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it really does feel like that sometimes when we've been working for some time. And I find this over and over again with my clients, people who've been very successful in their careers. They've kind of almost reached the top of whatever that mountain might look like, but they realize that there's still a long way to go and they're not quite sure what that path should be. So for me, climbing my second mountain is almost reinventing myself. It's taking everything I've known, everything I've learned, and just pivoting to bring that into a different format. So my career was very much focused on business development for professional service firms, which I loved. But after my accident, staying in that environment, I found very challenging because it is a very high stress environment, and everything that I had learned to heal myself, I wanted to bring back to people. So I realized that in order to do that, I couldn't stay in the environment as a business development executive. I kind of had to reinvent myself. And a lot of times when people do follow their heart, there is this process that they go through of reinvention. And it's not forgetting everything that we've learned, but it's being able to use that and shift and pivot and look at, okay, what is really passionate to me now? What is my passion project? And where do I want to make the biggest impact and bring the most good? So in a sense, that's what I mean by climbing a second mountain. It feels like I reached the top, but there's still a long way to go. And now there's another one in front of me. And so I'm climbing that one too. And it's really fun.
Yeah, which is terrific. And that's how life is. Life is just a continuum, right? It's one peak, the next peak, the next peak, the next thing. And I love that. And it's beautiful.
Well,
So
I find so many times people kind of get into this position where they feel stuck. They kind of reach that peak, and then it's hard to make a shift because there's a kind of act of bravery that goes with that. So it does feel like a mountain, but then, like you said, when you get to the top and you've reached that summit, the view from the top of the mountain is wonderful. So.
it sure is. It sure is. So you're talking about shifts and pivots, and often these come in something that many people call a midlife crisis, but you refer to it instead as a midlife chasm. What is the difference? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we have so many crises that go on in our life on a regular basis, whether it's a mini crisis or a major one like the accident I had. So for me, this is, it's like a chasm between the two peaks, if you like, being in this place where it's not a crisis, but it is a place where I want to shift from, and I want to think how I can move myself up. So I like to call it more of a midlife chasm because it can feel deep, but yet in order to go up, to come down, we go up, to go up, we come down. I feel like through life, we have these peaks and troughs. And when we're in that place of not knowing what the future might bring and not knowing what our second mountain might be, it can feel like a chasm. And yet there's always a way out, there's always a path. And once we start that climbing again, it brings us to that other place. So I like to differentiate between the two. Midlife crisis is so used these days. This to me seemed more genuine.
Yeah, I like that. That's neat. It's a good reframe because crisis seems like high alert in a whole bunch of things, where a chasm can be, okay, there's a little break here. Let's figure this out and do it. So I like that idea.
Yeah, totally.
Now, yeah, you talked about leaving a very, you were a high-powered executive, career, top salesperson, and you left to follow this other passion. How did you just make that decision? What drove you to do that?
Yeah, it's that heart whisper, right? And once you've heard it, it's very hard to ignore it. So for me, as you mentioned in my bio, I had an accident. And I tried to go back to the corporate world because that's what I did. That was my mountain at the time. And I just found it really challenging to be in that environment with everything I learned through my own healing path. And so I wanted to move to a place where I could bring everything that I had learned to people. And so being able to pivot required a lot of planning. Really, I didn't do it overnight. It took several years to get to that place. It was really understanding, what do I want to do? What am I passionate about? And then what's the path to get there? I really laid out financially, what would it look like? How do I get to a place where I can quit my very well-paying job to be able to sustain myself? So there was a path. There was doing a lot in the evenings and weekends. I would speak to people. I would even see clients initially free to start with, and then I started charging, and it was always on the weekends. So there's a piece that you give up there. I missed a lot of my kid stuff, but I knew that ultimately it would pay off because that was my passion. And then I just did all the things that have to happen to build a business. So I got a contract in place, and I laid out a program, and I had all the conversations I needed to have, and got to a point where I felt that it was viable, not just financially, but emotionally as well. And then I took the jump. And honestly, I wish I'd done it years ago, which is what people say, that once they've done it, why didn't I do it sooner? But I think there's some grace that goes with that. It obviously wasn't the right time. And the time I did make the move was exactly the time that I needed to. So I'm comfortable with that. But I think having the plan is key, and having the support around you is also key. I'm fortunate I'm married. My husband is working full time as well. So just having that, knowing if it all went south, I have a little backup, I think is really helpful too. So support network is also key.
Yep, absolutely. That's great. So I know that with your clients, you choose to work with service providers and service professionals. So why are you doing that? Why that niche?
Yeah, it's interesting. If you look at the professional service industry, it is such a big source of stress. I mean, that's an intense workload. You've got client demands 24/7. I work with a lot of lawyers, and you've got court deadlines, that there's billable hours, client needs. There's a lot that goes into just being in a professional services environment that contributes more to stress than any other profession. In fact, I think the latest stat I heard was that lawyers are 3 to 4 times more likely to suffer a serious mental health episode than the national average, which is astonishing to me. And if you look at the issues of stress, again, the latest stat I heard, I think, was 60 to 80% of all doctor visits are related to stress. And when you tie in the number of lost days through stress as well, I mean, it's phenomenal. And there's so much training out there in how to be a lawyer, how to be an accountant, how to be a good manager, but there's not really any training in how to manage stress in ourselves or how to recognize signs of mental health distress in our team. And so that's certainly an area that I really want to focus on, which is just helping people be better at their jobs by having that ability to manage the stress within themselves.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think there was a statistic, I think it said that dentists actually have the highest suicide rate, the most stressful job in the world or something. And just, I can imagine lawyers have that too. They are holding so much of their clients, future in their hands often. So that could be super stressful. So,
yeah, and any job that requires like a high functioning cognitive ability, that there's going to be a level of stress because we place a lot of demands on ourselves. So I do think it's a kind of an endemic that we haven't really got our arms around yet of how we can help people better manage stress symptoms in themselves and their teams.
Yeah, beautiful. So Melissa, for anybody that is out there and they might be feeling this right now, this mental health stress, really super stressed, they might even feel depressed, maybe they're anxious, maybe they just can't seem to handle things. So, and they're in a professional services business, what can they do? What's the first thing they should do to help themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. And obviously there's a lot of information out there. The way I like to work with people is I want to get them to realize how that stress is impacting the body, because anything that's happening on an emotional level, whether it's frustration, anxiety, panic, depression, all those emotions that we don't necessarily want to have with us on a regular basis, whatever's happening there is going to be manifesting in the physical body. So if somebody is under a severe amount of stress, then there's a very, very high likelihood that they're experiencing physical symptoms, whether it's heart palpitations, inability to sleep, digestion issues. These are all signs where we're under a high state of stress and it's being manifested in the physical body. So the first thing I like to do is start to recognize what are the sources of stress that somebody might be experiencing. There's usually a stressor. It could be the boss at work. Could even be the commute into work. It could even be something like the kids at home or a situation. It doesn't necessarily need to be a really big stressor like what's happening in the economy, what's happening with my financial future. It can be very small. And when our resilience is so low to stress, then we are more prone to react to it when it comes. So the other area I like people to look at is how are they building their resilience to stress? What kind of things are they doing to kind of fill that inner battery, if you like, so that when an event happens, they're more capable of dealing with it. And that's things like making sure we're getting enough sleep, making sure that we're exercising regularly, and then looking at the stresses. And there's lots of different tools and techniques that I use and that are also available to the public. The HeartMath website actually has some amazing, which is heartmath.org. It's a free nonprofit website, and their research is really phenomenal into stress. So I would say start there, start to recognize what's affecting me and how does it make me feel? And then what can I do to build up my resilience? And obviously I'd recommend working with a professional through some of it as well, because sometimes we don't notice our blind spots and what is actually affecting us. But the number one thing I would want to say is there is help out there, and suffering in silence is not an option. We don't need to do that. There's plenty of information out there to help.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And resilience is a huge thing. I know that I have 12 nieces and nephews. Many of them are in their teens and early 20s, and they seem to be having a lot of stress these days, like just more than I remember kids having, 10, 20, 30 years ago. And I think that resilience is the thing that, really teaching resilience at an early age really would serve us through the rest of our lives as well. So I love that you brought up resilience, and it's about that. How do I bounce back? So that's what we want. Nothing is insurmountable necessarily with the mental health, especially. So I love that.
Yeah, and teens really do struggle with that more than any other age demographic that I've seen. And I think there's just so much thrown at them. It's a difficult time anyway, being a teenager, and then having to deal with all the stresses that can accompany that. If they don't have the tools, then we see that effect. And unfortunately, depression is real in teens. So yeah, good luck with your nieces and nephews.
Yes, thank you. All of them. Great. Thank you. It's been great having you as part of this anthology book, this process, this whole collaboration. Melissa, tell us why you decided to be a part of it, share your story, and do all of this.
Yeah, I just loved that the focus was on listening to the heart, and also, the amazing collection of women being alongside those is truly humbling. But I think when people hear stories of people just like them, we're all normal people who've had an experience, being able to share that is so powerful, because I want people to see themselves in the collection of stories that they read in this anthology. And I felt like mine had a purpose in that I had an accident. It was a very traumatic time for me. I did go through the full range of all the emotions that nobody ever wants to have to live with, but there's hope on the other side. And coming out from it, kind of climbing that second mountain was so powerful. And I wanted to share that story for anybody who maybe is in a similar situation, who's maybe in the throes of a concussion and wondering if there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I think sometimes seeing that you're not alone, there's a light in the darkness, I think is really powerful. So while I know my story is probably not unique, I think being able to just share it is cathartic for me in many reasons, but also can help people who are maybe suffering as well.
Yeah, it will. And it does. And your story is great. I've read all 20 stories in the book, and I loved your story. And I had talked to you about it also. And I feel the same way as you do, that there needs to be hope for people, because there is. And you're right, when you're in it, you don't know what's ahead necessarily. So thank you for sharing that. So Melissa, as a final question, I guess, for today, what is one thing that you would like to leave with our audience? If they're going to remember one thing from today, what would that be?
I guess it would be that they're not alone, and not to suffer in silence. Because so many times, especially with mental health, it kind of has a stigma with it, and people are expected to just kind of buckle up and get on with it. And yet it's real. And that depression, that anxiety that people feel, they're not alone feeling that. And there is no shame in it. When you really look at how the body acts and how the brain takes information in, which is a bigger conversation than ours today, you'll understand that the way we're reacting is perfectly normal. Our body is trying to protect us with these responses that we have. And yet we judge them, and we feel that there's something wrong with us because we're feeling them. So the number one thing I would want people to come away with is don't suffer in silence. And there is hope. There is a light. Just take the first step to getting there.
Absolutely. And we're all in this together. We're all connected, energetically for sure, and, spiritually and all of that. So let's help one another. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. And Melissa, I know that there are people that are listening now that are going to want to stay connected to you. Can you tell us how they can reach out to you and how they can stay connected?
Yeah, I would love to chat with people who are interested. Probably the best way is my website, which is active-ascension.com, active-ascension.com. Or you're welcome to send me an email, which is melissa@active-ascension.com. I never spam anybody, and I respond to every email. So please do reach out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, Melissa, it has been a pleasure talking to you today. I love this. I love that you are talking about mental health too. The more we talk about these things, the more it releases the stigma that is around this. So thank you so much for that. And thanks for being part of this whole collaboration. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and thank you, Sue, for pulling this together. It really is important. And you've really found some phenomenal authors. So thank you for letting me be part of the anthology.
Yes, you're welcome. And listeners, thank you. Thank you for paying attention to your own heart whispers. Thank you for being here, because I know you're on your own journey of personal transformation in some way in your own life. Take one little snippet from every one of these authors, and boy, you'll be making so many shifts and changes. You're just going to love what's going to happen in the next days and weeks. So do that. And be sure to buy this book, Heart Whispers, on launch day, which is June 22nd. If you come to our website, heartwhispersbook.com, we will guide you to the Amazon link for your country, wherever you are. You will see the book. The Kindle book that day is 99 cents. It is a wonderful special offer for you. So, and when you buy that Kindle book or the paperback on that day, you bring back your receipt number from Amazon to our website, you plug that in, and you will have access to more than 40 gifts from our partners and authors. And these are wonderful free gifts for you, different types of downloads, discovery sessions, meditations, free ebooks or tips, really wonderful stuff. You will love that. So for 99 cents, boy, it's a no-brainer. So definitely do that and listen to your heart. Follow those whispers of your heart. Read those stories, those 20 amazing stories by these 20 incredible women that are in this book. And you will find yourself listening and following those own nudges in your own life as well. So thank you so much. I wish you all a beautiful day. Bye for now.